Genesis 21, verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of the bondwoman. And all that Sarah said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar. And putting it on her shoulder and the child, he sent her away, and she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle. And she cast the child under the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Okay, that's a bunch of verses. Now we'll break it down and cover them one by one. This is the next. You only get two real sections on Hagar. The first one was, we covered that this morning, and this is the last we really hear of her, other than just bits and pieces in reference to her. Look at verse 9. It says, And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian. Well, it's her son. That was her whole thing in the beginning, was I'll get a son by allowing Hagar to surrogate it, or however you say that word, be a surrogate, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Now, that's the same thing that Hagar got in trouble for. In chapter 16 was she started mocking, feeling like she was entitled. Now the 16-year-old, approximate 16, 17 years old, is making fun of the probably 2 to 5-year-old. Well, that's just a little baby. I mean, that shows some real cruelty right there. He either learned this from his mother, doing it in private, or it could just be the foolishness that's bound in the heart of a child, and he needed a rod of correction to drive it out of him. And either Abraham wasn't driving it, or Hagar wasn't driving it, or he was just a wicked child. There are wicked children, babies that are wicked. They've determined in their heart they're going to be wicked, and they are wicked. Either way, it appears that the jealousy has reared its ugly head, like it did in chapter 16, verse 4. In chapter 16, verse 4, we found, it says, And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. So suddenly Hagar got mad. That was chapter 16. Hagar originally decided, after she could have the baby and Sarah couldn't have a baby, that she was more important than Hagar. Well, now probably the firstborn Ishmael feels like he's more entitled than this new baby. You've got to remember the right of the firstborn. All the way through the Old Testament, the firstborn got the rights to everything. Everything else, they got half of everything. Of the other half that's left over would be divided among whoever else were in the children. So if you have 12 kids, number one gets half. The rest of them have to split it up between what's left. So number one gets a lot. So that's probably rolling around in his mind there. Proverbs 30, verse 21 says this. Proverbs 30, 21. For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. Drop down to verse 23. for an odious woman when she is married, and for an handmaid that is heir to her mistress. Okay, that's Hagar and Sarah. He says right there, the earth can't bear that. That is, those two are going to butt heads. It's like a wife and a mother-in-law trying to live together. It just doesn't work. So that's the situation with Hagar and Sarah. A mistress and how did he say it there? A maid and a mistress. That is the woman and the boss. And they go at it. So one of them's got to go. Now, God let it ride for a while, but at some point it's got to go. Now, that doesn't mean God's being cruel. God's still going to take care of her. But it's time to move on. In 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. 1 Corinthians 13, 4. Obviously, this lesson, Paul hadn't been born yet, but obviously this lesson had not been carried on or taught to Ishmael. He says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not, charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Well, Ishmael had not learned that. Well, he's going to go through some life lessons, and God will begin trying to teach it. Now, just because God tries to teach a man something doesn't mean the man learns it. It's still free will. He's got to decide he wants to learn the lesson. In Psalms 22, verse 6, he says it this way, but I am a worm and no man, a reproach of men, and despised of the people. That's a prophecy of Jesus Christ. How would you like to have been on the other side of that when you get to the judgment? Oh, yeah, you were one that was mocking and despised Jesus Christ. Whew. Now he's the judge. That's kind of what we got here. Isaac is being mocked and despised by Ishmael. In Proverbs 20, verse 11, he says, even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Age is never an excuse for wickedness. Never. You're never so young that you're allowed to get away with wickedness. Now, man might let you get away with it, but God's not fooled. He says here, even a child is known by his doings. By the fruit you shall know them. Okay. In Galatians 4:29, he says, but as then he that is born after the flesh persecuted them that was born after the Spirit, even so it is now. There he's giving you a comparison of Sarah and Hagar. And in that thing he says that Ishmael persecuted Isaac. So it was more than just laughing and mocking and pointing a finger. There was literal persecution going on. And the way you know it is he says, even so as it is now. That is, Israel, the nation, was persecuted by everybody in the region. Everybody that get their hands on them persecuted them. And he compares it spiritually. When the Christians came out and they started following Paul and all, they were persecuted by not only the heathens, but also by the Jews. Okay, but he's using that comparison. So you can run the comparison all the way back to the beginning and see that Ishmael and Isaac, there was some real persecution going on there, not just pointing the finger and mocking. It wasn't just words. There was something real there. So God's going to rectify the situation. Genesis 21, verse 10. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even Isaac. Okay, so she says, get rid of her. Now, she didn't say, get rid of your other wife. Sarah says, cast out the bondwoman. Okay, she didn't say maid. That's what she was. She was originally Sarah's maid. Here, she's a bondwoman. That is, she's bound herself to serve as a servant of the house, and so she answers to the head of the house. And because of that, she falls into the hierarchy. Of course, she's going to have to obey Sarah too. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even Isaac. Sorry, lady, Ishmael is your son. Remember your plot and plan that you came up with? Let's see that one, Genesis 16:2. Genesis 16:2. And Sarah said unto Abraham, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. Let's blame it on somebody. I pray thee, go in unto my handmaid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened unto the voice of Sarah. If only she had been as resolute in her conviction that no one's going to inherit any of this household except from my seed in chapter 16, we wouldn't have ended up with all these problems. And Israel wouldn't be dealing with a lot of the problems they're dealing with in the Middle East. But she wasn't. Originally, her plan was, because she couldn't have a child, she was going to have children multiple. You see the verse? 16:2. I may obtain children, not child, children by her. Her plan was to perpetuate this affair. Now, that sounds really wicked on our side. Now, granted, the law had not been given. Moses isn't alive yet. But still, there's enough Bible to know. Jesus comes down and he says, you know what happens. When God made them, he made them male and female. And said, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So you know from the beginning God didn't intend multiple wives. Every time a man multiplies wives, God multiplies problems. Just read it in the Bible. Anytime you see a man get another wife, it won't be a chapter later and you see problems develop. That's God showing up in life and saying, hey buddy, I'm not happy. Let's see. Okay, we covered all that. Genesis 21, verse 11. Genesis 21:11. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. I'm sure it was. Abraham loved Ishmael. And you get that by reading through from chapter 16 all the way on. You'll find that Abraham really did love. That was his first child. And they had a bond there. And now all of a sudden he's being told, throw him out. Well, it would be grievous. But that's the tangled web he's webbed. Yeah, that thing. What a tangled web we weave when we decide we're going to help God out. And that's what he did, he and Sarah. They decided, well, God's not moving fast enough, or he needs a little human intervention. And lo and behold, Hagar was the tool that the human used to make God, bring God down on a human level and fix things. God can fix things just fine from where he is. And he proved it. But it sure took some patience. Took a long time. At least it's 16 years before Isaac comes along after Ishmael. That's a long time of waiting. And it was 10 years after they came out of Egypt before Ishmael came along. So 26 years from Egypt that Abraham is waiting for a child before one showed up. That's some patience. It's a long wait. Abraham obeyed Sarah in this Hagar affair without asking God. You know you're bound for trouble when you don't talk to God. Any decision, regardless of how trivial you think it is destined for a problem if you don't get God's input, if you're a Christian, because you're his servant. A simple thing, as simple as, how much gas do I put in? Do I order this? Do I do that? Those simple life choices, you need to ask him about. Then you'll feel comfortable and confident in making your decision. He'll give you peace about it, or he won't. Say, okay, God, I think you're telling me to do this. If I'm not supposed to, let me know. and then go for it, as though he's directing you. And he'll let you know when he ain't. But he didn't do that. He just decided, hey, that sounds like a good idea. Let's get this show on the road. I'm an old man. I need some kids. How am I going to be multiple nations if I don't have any children? Now he's got to pay a price. He's got to pay a price for sin. Sin costs. There's no way to avoid the price of sin. Sin always costs something. Now God can lessen the severity of the price, but that's up to him. He doesn't have to. Sin has a price to pay. You remember David. David had to pay a price for his sin. 4 sheep, 4 of his children die. That's a big price to pay. Now Abraham's price is nothing in compared to that. But there's always some price that has to be paid. Abraham's going to pay the price. In Isaiah 46, verse 10. Isaiah 46, verse 10. This is the fact about God. This is what he does. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. God's saying, I can tell you what's going to happen before it ever happens. Now, Abraham knows that. He really does theologically. But practically, Hagar gets in the way of that understanding. We believe a lot of things theologically that we don't believe practically. That's just hypocrisy is what that is. Genesis 17, verse 19. Genesis 17, verse 19. Here's what Abraham knows. And God said, Sarah, thy wife, shall bear thee a son indeed. Okay, it should have been good enough God saying she'll bear a son. But now he has to put an emphatic on it, indeed. And thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. Okay, so it's God saying, I'm going to give you a son. His name's going to be Isaac. Well, then you know it's not Ishmael, because they're different names. Okay, so it's clear. In Genesis 17:21, he says, but my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear. No Hagar in there. It's pretty clear. Okay, so he wasn't confused. What he did was he confused things by throwing humanism in the mix of it. And that's what happened. In 16:10, this is God talking to Hagar after she's conceived. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. Now, that reminds you of something, doesn't it? The same promise God gave to Abraham. In Genesis 12, verse 1 and 2. Here's what God says originally about Abraham. Now the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house into a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Okay, so if we want to humanize something, this is what we do. We take a promise and make it apply to something we want right now. That doesn't really fit, but we're going to force it. Hagar. That's Hagar. We got a lot of convenient Hagars in our lives that we got to get rid of. That's right. Let God fulfill it the way God intends to fulfill it. He doesn't need any help, and it doesn't have to be manipulated. Abraham learned the lesson, a little too late, but he learned it. In Romans 4, verse 19. Romans 4:19. And being not weak in faith, this is talking about Abraham, he considered not his own body now dead, when he was about 100 years old, neither yet the deadness of Sarah's womb. Boy, are we reading about the same person here? He says right there, okay, well, that's a comfort to you. You can mess up, and you can mess up bad, and get right with God. And what he does is he cleanses you from all iniquity. He's not including the Hagar situation right here when he's thinking about Abraham. So you can get forgiveness for sins, and for big ones, and for major problems eternally. Now, you get to pay for it temporally a lot of times still, just like Abraham did, just like Israel has done for thousands of years. They're still paying for that sin. The fighting has never ended between those groups. However, when God's going to talk about him, he doesn't even mention that. He says he was strong in faith. He wasn't weak. He wasn't a weakling. He had some momentary lapses of judgment, we'll say that. Genesis 21, verse 12. Genesis 21:12. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. Okay, now he's showing who owns her. Abraham does. And all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Now he's asked a lot right here. He says, don't let this thing be grievous. Don't let it be grievous? How do you not? Okay, your parents just died, but don't worry about it. Don't let that bother you. Hello? That's, in essence, he's talking about a divorce here. You're cutting off your son and his mom and sending them off. But don't worry about it. Ain't going to be no problem. That's a tough command. Sometimes God gives those commands. He says, let it not be grievous in thy sight. So in your opinion. Well, obviously he can't ignore it, because he's got to tell her to get going. So it's got to be on his mind. He can't change it. He can't say, let's delay it. No. God's rule is God's rule, and he's got to tell her. But God says, change your view on it. Change your viewpoint on it. Now, that's something we can control. If we get one little thing. The only way for you to change your viewpoint is to get a new one. And God has to give you that one. So, because of that, we've got a great thing. God's going to give him some new information that will allow him to not be grieved over this. And we'll get to that in just a minute, but first let's go to Leviticus 10. Leviticus 10, verse 6. Moses' two sons have just been killed. God killed them. And here's what comes down in the command line right here. And Moses said unto Aaron, and unto Eleazar, and to Ithamar his sons, the other two that hadn't been killed yet, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, lest the wrath come upon all people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled. Everybody else can cry, but you're not allowed to. So what? It's your relatives. Don't worry about it. Let everybody else do it. You don't. God can make those commands, and we have to obey them. Face it, there's going to be some hard things in life as a Christian, because we're getting a whole lot more on the other side. Face it, it's not fair on either side. It's not fair for the little bitty things that we have to go through and put up with in comparison to what we're going to get for eternity. That's not fair if we're comparing apples and oranges here. He says don't worry about it. It's basically the same thing he's told Moses. Now let's see what further information he's going to give. I said Moses. Let's find out what further information God's going to give Abraham in order to enable him not to grieve. And he does this a lot of times. Genesis 21:13. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. That little verse right there should put him at ease. Obviously, the mother and the child are not going to be eaten by wild animals, which was a serious concern. We're not talking about New York City. There you'd be destroyed by other kind of animals. But we're talking about that was a real danger. It was a real danger to be mugged, to be killed, to be whatever. To just starve, which as the story unfolds, they think they're going to. But God's told Abraham, hey, look, you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to make of him a great nation. So that's told Abraham he's going to survive and he's going to thrive. And God's the one that's going to do it. So that's put him at ease, if he'll concentrate on that. Now, it's still going to be a fight. Abraham's still going to have to force his mind to get under control, because his mind's going to say, that was my own. I should not have listened to her. You know, I kicked that young little 16-year-old boy out there. Who's going to raise him? Who's going to teach that kid?
What are they going to see on Facebook?
Yeah. And, you know, they're going to head right back to Egypt. I've just as well have sent him to Egypt myself, taking him down there. Okay, all those things could have gone through his mind. But God gave him a little nugget right here. You ain't got to worry about it. View it this way. The second your mind starts to grieve over it, here's the information I'm giving you. I'm taking care of the situation. I'm going to make of him a great nation. In Genesis 21:14, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it to Hagar and put it on her shoulders and the child, and sent her away, and she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Abraham is a great man, but I doubt he felt like one. We read these people in the Bible, and we've been given their full life history. And we've been given, just bits and pieces of it. Here Abraham lives to be, 175? Something like that. And so we're just given bits and pieces of his life. And we come away from it thinking he's just an awesome, great man all the time. And that's the way you've been referred to all throughout the Bible. They're all talking about our father Abraham, our father Abraham. Now, here's the thing. He didn't feel like he was great. That's judged way down the road, looking back. And you and I ain't going to feel like we're great either. Let's go into his mindset. Here's what he's seen. Lot, he said bye-bye to. And when he said bye-bye to Lot, things didn't go well. Lot ran right to the world as fast as he could get there. Then God set his world on fire, literally. Then Lot ran up to the hills and started playing with some more sin. Okay, that's tough. And he loved him. But he had to say bye-bye to that. Now Ishmael has to go. He's got to say bye-bye to Ishmael. He loved Ishmael, but he's got to say bye to him. As far as Abraham's concerned, nothing's working out the way he thought it was going to. As far as he knew, he was heading off to the promised land and going to be a great nation. But he ain't seeing it yet. Now Ishmael's gone. Soon he's going to be required to offer Isaac. Now God gives him a pass on that one. But as far as he knew, God was going to take him. After that, that's going to be followed by Keturah, and her children are going to be sent away. It's a whole lot of leaving. A whole lot of grief going on. Solomon says it this way, in much wisdom is much sorrow. So, just because you don't feel like you got anything together and God's putting it all on you, look back at the men he's done that with. We got a great viewpoint of them. And God has a good viewpoint of them. And they didn't feel like they were fulfilling the things that were required of them. He says in Hebrews 11, all of these people finished in faith, but none of them received what they thought they were aiming for. God having prepared some better way. Okay, so our life's going to be the same. All right, back to our verse. It says, and she wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. We talked about that a little this morning. Beersheba is where she went in chapter 16. She went down to the well down there. Or not the well, she went down, and that's where the angel met her. Hold your place there, we'll come back in a minute. But Galatians 4 verse 23. Galatians 4:23. Here Paul is going to give us an account of this Hagar-Sarah event. Galatians 4:23. But he who is of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. That is obviously Ishmael and Hagar. But he of the free woman was by promise. Obviously Isaac and Sarah. Which things are an allegory. Okay, what's an allegory? Allegory? Dave, what's an allegory? Has something with big teeth on it? No. An allegory, it's an analogy. It's a type. It's a story with a moral. Or an allegory, for these are the two covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which entereth to bondage, which is Hagar. Okay, so he's told you there. You can learn some morals to the lesson from this story. So, we'll do that. We saw where she ran. She ran to Beersheba. And it says while she was there, she was wandering in the wilderness. So, we know some facts. We've got some facts at hand. Wandering in the wilderness ain't a good place. And Beersheba is on the way down to Egypt. Remember the territories that Israel owns? Dan, the farthest point in the north. Beersheba, the farthest point in the south. I'll give you another story that'll clinch this. 1 Kings 19. 1 Kings 19:3. Elijah decides to clean house in Jezebel's religion. And he goes in and wipes out all the false prophets. Well, Jezebel's not having that. She's not going to take it. So she gets mad and she's going to go after Elijah. 1 Kings 19:3. And when he saw that Jezebel was going to come after him and get him, he arose and went for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. That's the south. But did he stop there? No, he went right where she did. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. Okay, so that's a day outside the territory of Judah, into the wilderness. What happens in this wilderness? It's a deserted, lonely place. Let's read on. And came and sat under a juniper tree. Isn't that what happened with Hagar? She threw the child under a shrub. And the rest is true too. And he requested for himself that he might die. She said, let me not see the death of the child. And said, it is enough now, Lord. Take away my life, for I am not better than my father's. Okay, that's a bad news bear right there. You don't want to be in that wilderness, but that's where she was. But God can deliver a man in the wilderness. And it's a good thing that God is more patient than man is. God's still calling to him. If he's not dead yet, God's still going to try to use him. Same with us. Now, there's no reason, logically, that he should be reaching out and so patient and so gracious with Hagar. It's called Hagar in Galatians and Hagar in the Old Testament. There's no reason for him to do that, other than it's just a human. And his desire is for humans, not just Israel. Although he's got a special place in his heart for Israel. But he's interested in all people, not just Israel. So here he's going the extra mile for this heathen woman. And he's going to meet her out there in the wilderness, and he's going to give her hope and a promise. Even though she's saying it's all death here and we're going to die and I'm out of water and all this. And I probably better stop it there. There's more to this. Genesis 21, verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. So we talked about Beersheba. We tracked it down, saw the people that were in the wilderness of Beersheba. That's south of the farthest south you can get in Israel's property line, and then it becomes wilderness. It's barren. And what happens in that area is people go there, and they, if they're not prepared, they go there and they die because there's no place to get water. It's just like being in a desert. That's where Jesus Christ was tempted. That's where Elijah goes down there and says, just kill me now. Get it over with. I'm no better than my fathers. Okay, so this is the place she is. She has the same reaction. I don't want to see the baby die. Verse 15. And the water was spent in the bottle, not the Bible, in the bottle. And she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Now, she did just the opposite of what we would have done. We would have cast the bottle under the shrubs and held tight to the child. She didn't, because she's going to need that bottle. And if she's got that bottle and she finds water, she can help the child. But if all she has is the child and she finds water and she does not have the bottle, it's not going to be much good to him. If it's in a well and she's got to pull it out, she has nothing to draw with. Verse 16. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. Now, that's a good distance, a bow shot. If you strung up a bow and shot an arrow, that's how far she was from him. But you'll see later on, he becomes an archer. So this sort of sets up who he's going to be. For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. Okay, so she's expecting this child to die. That's her expectation. Human reasoning would say she's right. They're in the desert here. The water's all gone. They're dying of thirst. Not figuratively, but literally. And so in her mind, we're going to die here. But that's not right. She was wrong. We have the same things happen in life. Life will tell us a bunch of things that we can do the math on and figure out, but it ain't God's math. God's already given her a promise that he's going to make a nation out of her son. So how can he die here? He can't. So that was worthless to put your faith in what you perceive as fact when God's already given you a promise. Better put the fact in the promise, not the fact in supposed reality. Look at Psalm 63, verse 1. This is just typical when you're going through a wilderness. And in your life, there will be times that you feel like you're in the wilderness. Even after being saved, there's times you feel like, I'm trudging through this wilderness again. Psalm 63, verse 1. I'm going to give you the title to the psalm. A psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. That's where we are, the wilderness of Beersheba. O God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth, because there's no water, for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land, where no water is. That's where she was. David's been down that trek too. He says, I'm going to tell you something about that spot. There ain't no water. And you better be getting a hold of God when there's no water. When you need an answer to life, it's not going to be found in life, because life is usually a lie. It's going to be found in the one who gives it, Jesus Christ. That's where you get an answer. Isaiah 49, verse 15. Now, Hagar's going to get a good answer. Even though she already had the answer, God's going to give it to her again. And she's going to get the answer repeated to her because she starts talking to the right person, God. Here in Isaiah 49:15, it says, "Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee." God's saying, if it was possible for a woman to forget her own child, and that's a rare case, but he's saying it could happen. And I'll tell you what's impossible is for God to forget you, his child. So while in a rare instant, here and there, and it's become more and more prevalent the closer we get to the Antichrist showing up. However, he's saying something you can count on, God's not going to forget you. Now, she'd already learned, "Thou God seest me," in chapter 17. So now she's going to talk to him. And it's going to work out, verse 17. And God, Genesis 21:17. "And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar?" Huh? There's something wrong with you? You're sitting down there in the middle of the desert and there's no water? What's the problem? "Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is." Okay, that blows me away. Hagar's down there, and we already see what the problem is. She knows what the problem is and thinks it's very obvious what the problem is. And she's weeping and wailing. The angel shows up, and he acts like, "You're overreacting, woman." What's the problem? Don't even be afraid. Don't worry about this. Look at Exodus 3, verse 7. You say, yeah, I heard the kid over there. Don't worry about it. Exodus 3:7. "And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters." Now this is an important phrase. "For I know their sorrows." Jesus Christ hasn't landed on earth yet. This is God himself saying, "I know their sorrow." So that's a good thing. You can count on it. Whatever your sorrow is, God knows sorrow. You can talk to him about it. He can give you a real answer. In Exodus 22, verse 21. Exodus 22:21. He says, "Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Ye shall not afflict any widow, nor fatherless child. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry." Now that's a great thing in there. However, I'll bet you it's rarely used, because there's an if in that. If they cry to me. Usually that's what people don't do. When they're in distress, God's the last one on the mind. It's, "I'll fix this. Somebody can help me." No, God can help. But right there is a promise. If you'll cry to me, if you've been done wrong, just talk to me about it. He can fix things. She said in our verse there, in, what verse was it? We were in verse 17, Genesis 21:17. The angel says, "Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is." Okay, so there's two things necessary for deliverance in this situation. Not one, two things. A praying mother and a praying son. Both of them are praying, not just one. Remember, Ishmael had been persecuting Isaac. That's why he was kicked out. So some suffering was required by God. He needed a wake-up call. But once he got that wake-up call, all he had to do was call back. Hit redial, call God, and God will pick up the phone. That's what he says. I've heard the child. I'm going to take care of things. It's going to be all right. So the two things that are required, that free will always has to kick in. A righteous person can pray for an unrighteous person, and that's good. But you don't know if the unrighteous is going to be willing to turn. If they're willing to turn, then you know you've directed God's attention to them. But if they've got that hard heart, stubborn, where they're not going to turn to God, all your praying will go unanswered. Now, it may help God to direct more things in the path, block the way, put up more hedges. However, it's up to an individual whether or not they turn to God. Nobody can do that for them. Genesis 21, verse 18. Genesis 21:18. This is the angel talking. He says, "Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation." So he says, hey, go back over there and get your son. That's your baby. Go get him. This is elementary stuff here. He's saying, go get your kid. He's going to be a great nation. Now, he didn't say she's going to be a great nation. He said he's going to be a great nation. Go get over there with greatness. That's what he's telling her. Genesis 21, verse 13. "And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed." This is being directed at Abraham, talking about Ishmael. So there's promises. Abraham's gotten the promise on this son, but now she's gotten it too. Go back to chapter 16, verse 10. This is the angel of the Lord talking directly to her in a previous stunt in the wilderness. "And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude." Okay, then the child can't die. Or else God can break his rules. His rule is, I give my word, it stands. Well, if the kid's going to die before there's any nation, then that one didn't work out too well. Obviously, the kid cannot die, regardless of what life seems to tell her. In chapter 17, verse 20. "For as Ishmael I have heard thee, behold, I have blessed him." Doesn't say will. It says have. "And will," now it's future, "make him fruitful, and will," future, "multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation." So none of that has happened in chapter 21 when they're worried about dying in the wilderness. So what we got to do when we get in the wilderness is go back to sure footing. The promises he's put out in the Bible, the promises he's given us, the things you've seen as you've gone through the Bible, those are where you get your promise. He says in 1 Peter that they're precious promises that are given to us. Those are designed by God so that we can have faith when facts are lying. Those are needed. She already has God's word on the outcome of her child's life. God's already promised this. So why does she think he's going to die? Because we all do the same thing. We think 2 plus 2 always equals 4. Nope. Sometimes in God's math, not algebra, something way bigger than algebra. God's math, 2 plus 2 can equal anything he wants it to. That's right. Genesis 21, verse 19. Genesis 21, 19. "And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle," good thing she's got it, with water, "and gave the lad drink." Now, obviously, she didn't look hard enough. There was a well right there. She could have got water. She was blinded to it. In the wilderness, you're blinded to deliverance. You got to call to God, and he's got to show it to you. We're dependent on God. The simple things will escape us. when you're in the wilderness. The simple things that are the answer to the problem. Look at Numbers 22:31. Numbers 22:31. And the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. He didn't even see the angel standing there with a sword about to chop his head off until God opened his eyes. That's what we need in life. Problems are going to face us all the time and portray themselves as though they're big bad facts, when they ain't nothing. We need God to open our eyes so that we can see the way of escape and see the real answer. Right here it is. The Lord opened his eyes. In 2 Kings 16, verse 17. You need a pen? 2 Kings 6, verse 17. 2 Kings 6, verse 17 to 20. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. Okay, so if God doesn't open your eyes, you ain't going to see it. Now, their salvation was already set. The deliverance was already there. An overwhelming force was present to deliver them, but they couldn't see it. Elisha says, open that guy's eyes, let him see what's really out there. We got nothing to fear. There's more with us than there are with them. And that's the story. But God has to open his eyes. God's got to open our eyes. Every single day, we need to ask him to open our eyes, because these eyes don't see right. They'll lie to you. In Isaiah 35, verse 6. Isaiah 35, verse 6. He says, Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, that's a deer, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness, that's where she was, shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. If you got Jesus, you've got, regardless of where your feet seem to be, if you've got Jesus, you got all you need. Waters and streams in the desert where there ain't none. You with me? I got it taken care of. That's what he's saying. Look at Matthew 6, verse 22. The Lord opened her eyes, and she could finally see that there was water right there. But that eye is not the same eye that told her that the kid was going to die. Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Okay, so the light of your body is your eye. What you perceive with your eye becomes what you make your body do. If you see there's a brick wall right there, then you're going to go another way. You're not going to run your body through it. You figure that a brick wall is probably going to be stronger than your body. Okay, so if your eyes are single, you seen the people with a lazy eye, they're looking halfway over here, or they're talking to you over here. Okay, he's saying if you got to have both eyes looking the same direction. If your eye is single, if you got it focused in one spot, now you can see what you're doing. But he's going to liken this to our light, Jesus Christ. If you'll keep your eye on him, now you can make your body do what it should do. The second your eyes veer off of him and start looking in the mirror, then you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're following flesh instead of God, and flesh don't know nothing. All flesh knows is the grave, death. Psalms 146, verse 8. Psalms 146, verse 8. It says, the Lord openeth the eyes of the blind. Man, how's that make you feel? You thought you had sight? Then he ain't coming to you. Admit you're blind and let him open your eyes. If you don't think you're blind, he ain't opening your eyes. Openeth the eyes of the blind. The Lord raiseth them that are bowed down. The Lord loveth the righteous. God has a special spot for righteous people. Now, he loves all his children, but he loves some more than others. He says he loves righteousness. If you're going to be part of the righteous, you get a special spot. You get to come sit next to him at dinner. Okay, Psalms, back up to chapter 13. Chapter 13, verse 3. Yeah, Psalms 13, verse 3. He says, consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. Lighten mine eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Okay, so your eyes have to be enlightened, and God will give them light. You don't see a whole lot when you're trying to walk in the dark. You do that by what you think you remember seeing. So you're dependent on your memory, or you're dependent on bumping along gingerly, hoping that you don't fall in the process, or that you can hit something and not walk through it. Right. Well, yeah, don't do that. So he says here, God, lighten mine eyes. Just put a light on my eyes. Now, we have that in the Army, the infrared. They're in the dark, but their eyes have been enlightened with just a little thing they put on there, and then they can see in the dark. That's what God will do for us. This world is full of dark. And the people that are not saved, or even the Christians who are saved and are not living like it, they're wandering around and they don't know what they're doing. They're wandering from one bear trap to the next, and they can't see it. But if you'll ask God, he'll put the night vision goggles on, and you can see that trap before you step in it. It said back there in Genesis 21:19. Genesis 21:19. It says, and she filled the bottle with water. Okay, so she's still got a hold of that bottle. And it's a good thing she still got that bottle, because now the angel has said, hey, look right there. And it's probably right, an arm's length away. Look right there. What do you think that is? That's a well of water. I've been telling you, what's the problem? Okay, so she's got the bottle still. Well, it's a good thing she held on to that, because now she can put it to use. Guess what? You and I are the same way. You're going to read some things in the Word of God you're not going to understand. You're going to find some things here that maybe don't add all the way up. And you're going to need to hold on to them. The bottle might be empty right now, but just hang on, he'll fill it up. It's not time yet. But hang on to it. Don't throw it out. Just because you don't understand it, or just because you think it's not useful. It is useful. Hang on to it. Look at Luke chapter 2. Luke 2, verse 49. Luke 2, verse 49. This is Jesus when he got lost in the crowd. But he wasn't lost in the crowd. His parents were lost in the crowd. Right? His parents were wandering around in the lost crowd. Luke 2, verse 49. And he said unto them, how is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not I must be about my Father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. There's a bottle, it's empty. What good's it do us? Well, a lot of people are going to throw it out, but not everybody. Verse 51. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. She's hanging on to that bottle. She doesn't quite understand it yet, but she's hanging on to it. God will put some water in it one day. We got to do the same thing. Look at, go back to verse 16. Chapter 2, verse 16, Luke 2:16. And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in the manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all they that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. This Bible is intended to do just that. You're going to read some things, you're going to see some things, and it's going to say, that sounds just the opposite of what I've always thought. Or how in the world does that fit in with all these hundreds of other verses and not contradict? Okay, don't throw it out. Hang on to the bottle. Keep working on it. Got to put some water in it eventually. Look at Luke 9. Luke 9, verse 44. Here Jesus is going to explain his own preaching. Luke 9:44. Jesus says, "Let these sayings sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men." Okay, he says, look, some of you aren't getting this. I know it. But just let these words sink down in your ears. Don't let it fly out the other side. Hang on to it. And, it says that after the resurrection, then they understood, the 500,000 times that he told them before, I'm going to be killed and then resurrected. Well, for some reason, they couldn't get it before. But after it had happened, they looked down at that bottle and it's full of water. They understood it. Genesis 37. Genesis 37, verse 9. Genesis 37:9. All right, anybody know who this is about? Joseph. Joseph. He's stirring up trouble again. He's a dreamer. Okay, so now he's going to come by and he's going to tell these boys, hey, I had a good dream last night. Let me tell you about it. I was the big shot and you were a bunch of nobodies. Let's see it. Verse 9. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves unto thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him. But his father observed the saying. His father rebuked him, but then he started thinking. So that doesn't make any sense, but this is the second one. And I know God, that sounds like him. He's observing it. He doesn't understand it yet. One day he will. One day he's going to show up in Egypt and bow down. Look at Hebrews chapter 2. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 1. Hebrews 2, verse 1 to 3. It says, Therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. So hanging on to the bottle ain't going to be easy. As Christians, we want to get people off the bottle. But there's one bottle you want to hang on to. It's in the book. Verse 2. If the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward. Did you hear that one? Did you see what that verse said? Hang on to that. Do you know what he just said? He said angels spoke in the past. And those that didn't obey what they told received the recompense of not obeying them. They received a just recompense. So if they disobeyed what the angel said, they would get beat up for it. So that's a lesson to us. What the Bible says is fact. Whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not, it does not matter. God's not open for suggestions. His word is his word, period. Amen. You obey it or you don't obey it, but you pay for it either way. Verse 3. How shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him? He says, look here. Those people had to get it from angels. We've gotten it direct from the Lord. And if we ain't going to listen up and heed what he said, there ain't going to be no escape for us. So you need to find out what he said, and whether you like it or not, obey it. Do yourself a test. Think back the last time, or within the recent history, of you reading the Bible, what was the last thing you saw that was against you, that you did not like? If you've not seen something like that, you're not reading the Bible. You're reading into the Bible. Because the Bible will tell you off. If the Bible's not told you off, you're not looking. Your eyes are not open. Open them up and view it as this is God telling me what to do. Then you'll get instruction. Genesis 21. We got to finish this thing up. I'm about to preach here. Genesis 21. Genesis 21, verse 20. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness. Now that's too bad. It would have been all right if it just stopped at and he grew. God was with the lad and he grew. Good, that's what we want. But you don't want to stay in the wilderness. You should outgrow the wilderness. Study the life of Ishmael. It's nothing but trouble. Get out of the wilderness. The way you get out of the wilderness is follow God. He's going to lead you out of the wilderness into Canaan. Now, for Ishmael, he didn't lead him there. And we got doctrinal issues if we push that too far. Okay. And became an archer. Okay, there's his life profession is he's going to be an archer. Now, he's going to need to be an archer, because his hand's against every man, and every man's going to have their hand in his neck. So he becomes an archer real quick. Verse 21. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Bad news. So we've got half-breed. What? She's from Egypt. Yep, she went back home. Got him a wife. Somebody cheap. No. He got him an Egyptian wife. So the Arabs are half Egyptian, half Hebrew. They're half-breeds. Kind of like the Samaritans, half-breeds. And then from here on out, basically everything you're going to read about Ishmael is going to be negative. But he's a type, and it's going to be mostly what you see with Ishmael is a reference to a nation, as far as an opposition to God, because his birth was an opposition to God's plan.